So as we've just explained, IDH works in 18 commodity sectors, coffee being one of the largest ones. We have a total portfolio of 130 million euros over 5 years. So compared to our colleagues who just presented this morning, it's quite small. However, in bringing together the different private and public sector players to really drive innovation and see what can be scaled, we hope that we can also make a difference. Coffee is an important program for IDH. The Sustainable Coffee Program is a public-private partnership whose overall goal is to bring sustainable coffee production and sourcing practices to scale to meet increasing demand in markets while improving farmer livelihoods and sustaining natural resources. In our steering committee, we work with many of the large roasters in the world, and also on a national level, we work with both trade and roasters. In each country, we also work with the governments and local institutions to build the case for sustainable production in the coffee sector. We also fund activity, so we work together with the roasters through their supply chains to train producers and build service delivery structures that will continue beyond the end of any project period. We also, together, so all of the players on the board, we fund activities that benefit the whole sector, that is both country-specific and an international level. These are our focus countries. Of course, there are many members in the ICO, many coffee-producing countries, and we cannot focus on all of them. So together with our roaster partners, 6 countries to start in, activities to drive some innovation, to see how that could be scaled up in other countries as well. We commissioned a series of case studies looking at our focus countries to better understand the business case, and in many cases the lack of business case, to invest in sustainability in the coffee sector. These reports have been done in Brazil, Colombia, Ethiopia, Indonesia, Uganda, and Vietnam, and are available for everybody to download on our website. This has enabled us to better understand what we could build on, what already existed, where people were already getting together and investing in sustainability, and where there was maybe less of a business case, or where we could help strengthen or create the business case for long-term investment in sustainable production, and also highlight where there was no business case, and look for other solutions together with people in the sector to look for other solutions and risk mitigation possibilities where necessary, either through government funding or donor funding or other mechanisms. Despite the different situation in each country, we did find that there are common challenges faced by producers everywhere. These included climate change, mainly on the adaptation side, also partly on the mitigation side, but really good agricultural practices to mitigate the risk of climate change to a producer's ability to produce good quality coffee. We also found that access to finance was an issue in many countries, and this is a topic of today's finance forum, of which is the 5th, and it's a topic that many are addressing all over the world. However, really understanding access to what kind of finance for what purpose wasn't always so clear. So we're just starting a work stream now to look more closely into that. We also found that sustainable production practices were not always well known, nor well trained in different countries. In many countries, producers would get training from 4 different institutions, each telling them different good agricultural practices, different amounts of water to use, different ways of applying fertilizer. And we found that that also created confusion on the ground and also waste of resources at a national and international level. We also worked together with the voluntary sustainability standards to see how can we make this market access tool more accessible to more producers. In order to address these challenges, most of our main activities take place on a national level in each country. As our colleagues have said this morning, we strongly believe in the importance of partnerships where each partner is committed to action and does what they do best. To this end, we believe that scale and change for the better for farmers on the ground, we need more local ownership by the sector in the country. It cannot be a north-south thing. It cannot be that people come from international donor organizations or civil society to tell farmers on the ground or a local coffee sector what is best for the coffee sector in your countries. So we believe that local ownership by the sector to really have a common understanding on a national level and on a regional level and on a local level about what is sustainability, what does it mean for us to be producing coffee in the long term and for our farmers to really make a livelihood out of producing coffee. To this end, we believe that sector platforms provide a useful way to generate systemic change beyond just working together with the private sector through their supply chains. We believe that national platforms bring better coordination in the sector. So this is a place where public sector and the private sector can come together and discuss what is sustainability. They can come up with a common vision. In many countries, the private sector and the public sector don't always sit together or talk, and many have different understandings about how to move forward towards producing more good quality coffee and produce more resilient farmers. Platforms are also useful for the exchange of intelligence. So there are research institutions, governments doing institutions, private sector also does research, and it can be kept up to date with what's going on in the private sector and how the research agenda can be better supported, can better support the private sector developments. We also see platforms as a way to accelerate and disseminate learning in the sector and scale up of innovations that are taking place on the ground. We've also found in some cases that different ministries within the public sector also do not talk to each other and don't know what's going on. And they've found that getting together in a platform, there's also better coordination within the public sector. We also see platforms as a way for improved government policy with input from the private sector. There are a number of studies in different countries on different commodities which have found that legislation developed in public-private dialogue is easier to implement and provides more impact on the ground. It's also a place to influence public policy to create a more level playing field for both international and national private sector and better solutions that address local and regional issues. We also see national platforms as a way for international credibility for local sustainability initiatives. It's a real channel to showcase the innovations and the interventions that really work, and also to link between available international funding mechanisms and change on the ground in a coordinated way. One of the other approaches that we're currently developing with our partners in different countries, and that we've started in our 6 focus countries, as well as together with Tanzania, being led by the Tanzanian Coffee Board, is a national sustainability curriculum. This is really looking at how can we standardize a producing country's approach towards key sustainability issues. So it's a baseline set of good agricultural practices and good management practices that aim to address the key sustainability issues that have been jointly identified by the public and private sector within a country and support a viable farm in terms of productivity, soil and water management, coffee quality, and so on. To some extent, this can be seen as a sort of primary school education in agriculture for all coffee producers. If you go to school, a primary school in many countries, and then you change schools, there's still a similar curriculum, they give the same message. And there we would hope with a national sustainability curriculum that's jointly developed between the public and private sector and endorsed by both the public and private sector, that producers can get a common message when they're trained by different entities. We're also looking for committed partners to develop the same approach in other countries and scale up the rollout. In several of our focus countries, including Brazil, Vietnam, and Uganda, we've already developed a national sustainability curriculum approach, and we're rolling that out together with the public and private extension services. Other examples of pre-competitive collaboration within a country, so national level interventions of the Sustainable Coffee Program, includes supporting the establishment of the Vietnam Coffee Coordination Board and a national sustainability curriculum that was led by WASI, which is one of the leading research institutions in Vietnam. It's being endorsed by the public and private sectors and currently being rolled out by the National Agricultural Extension Services in Vietnam. We're also working together with the Ethiopian Commodities Exchange and other players in Ethiopia to develop a traceability system for coffee. This will hopefully unlock significant investments in sustainability in Ethiopia. We've also worked with Brazil. In Brazil, they don't need a lot of international funding. There is plenty of funding available in Brazil for Brazilian coffee producers. However, not all of it is accessible to the smaller and medium-sized growers. And so we, together with partners in Brazil, we help support a guideline to access earmarked funds for Brazilian coffee growers, specifically to increase the sustainability of their coffee growing. We're also working together with the Tanzanian Coffee Board and other national public and private stakeholders to develop a national sustainability curriculum. We also fund a number of field level projects, and in this case it's supported by our national level interventions, and our national level interventions are supported by our field level projects. And this is really working together with the private sector and co-funded by the private sector to work through their supply chains, develop more sustainable production on the ground. We also work on an international level, and this is also funded by our private partners and include a recently published Farming as a Family Business Toolkit, which has a number of facilitation tools and case studies about gender inclusiveness and also including youth in coffee farming, how this can be developed into more of a mainstream activity. We're also work together with the Pesticide Action Network in the UK for alternatives to endosulfan, a recently banned pesticide. And we're working on common indicators for sustainability projects in coffee. A couple of years ago, we held a workshop together with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and Coffee Partnership Tanzania. And now we're also working with the Sustainable Food Lab to see where is the common goals for learning and how can we get together and share learning goals and share information to build upon so that not everybody's reinventing the wheel all the time. We strongly believe in the whole sector is necessary in order to increase sustainable production of coffee globally. So this is governments, traders, donors, roasters, sustainability standards, research bodies, and producers. We all need to work together and do what we do best in order to support the sector and ensure that we can all drink coffee in the coming time. This is why we're also excited about our possible cooperation with the ICO, where we will work to strengthen cooperation in the sector with many different parties, as we believe this will contribute to more scale, ownership, and better regional solutions for systemic change to scale sustainability, to go beyond private supply chains, to change how the coffee sector is seen and governed in the origin countries. These are the opportunities for cooperation that we've identified together with our partners at the International Coffee Organization and also the 4C Association platform, if the MOU is ratified within the ICO, and you see this partnership and possible collaboration as being a benefit to you and your countries. The first of that is development and support of national platforms. As we said before, we see this as a very useful tool to get together in the private and public sector to channel funding and to come up with a common understanding of what sustainability in your particular country could mean. There's also the National Sustainability Curriculum, where we believe that the ICO can play a big role in supporting different countries to develop their own approach to build on what already exists, to transfer learnings between countries, and to ensure that the changes that we've identified at a national level also are then implemented on a regional and local level. In climate change, there have been collaboration with different climate initiatives and governments to roll out. We're cooperating also with the ICO and Coffee and Climate Initiative and looking at what other kinds of climate initiatives are there. Because again, we don't believe that any one institution or any one initiative has all of the answers. We're also talking with partners in Africa about developing a common financial literacy training, and also, as I mentioned before, exploring opportunities for access to finance. What kind of finance is needed and by who? We also see a big possibility with the ICO to do a joint donor approach. So there are many different bilateral and multilateral donors who would like to invest in coffee or would like to invest in different countries within coffee. And by having a platform that has a common view of sustainability in a sector, and by having coordinated resources within a country, by having one agenda that's funded by different players, we see a big opportunity to work together and channel more funds into the coffee sector for the benefit of our producers and the environment in which they produce. Thank you very much.